Hello, everyone. Today, we're joined by Silvina Paz, the founder and managing director of Address Property Consultants. Silvina, how are you doing today?
Really good. Thank you.
Good. Are you excited to be coming on the podcast? Is there anything you're looking forward to speaking about?
No, just let's have a good chat.
Amazing. Firstly, Silvina, if we can start off understanding a bit about your background. What
hmm
does your, looking up in the early stages of, growing up, schooling, etc. What is your background? And I guess if you tell us a little bit about the business and what you do.
Okay. With this accent, as you can clearly hear, I wasn't born here. Originally from Argentina. I've been
Okay.
here for 25 years. I came to the UK to study. My background is in law, and I came to study. I have a master's from the LSE in finance law. And I went into banking. I did investment banking for a few years. And then, because of various things in there, I took a break, did a few other things. And 13 years ago, I went into property. Originally, I had a partner, and my partner was of the idea at the time that we should be doing relocation, because relocation is something that is very badly done. And in the banking and the financial environment, there is a lot of moving around from various offices and so on, and they always put you a relocation agent and blah blah blah, and it's always a really awful experience, always. So she said, "Oh, I'm sure we can do better." And we have the contact, so we can talk to the banks and so on and so forth. And for the not for the junior, but like the more senior people, we could perhaps do something. And that's how it started.
Okay, amazing. Perfect. And could you tell us a little about the business? What does the business do? What areas does it cover? Just maybe a deep dive into the business for the people that don't know about yourself for the business.
Yeah. Well, I am unlike most people in the real estate industry, and especially in London. I only work in London. And to be very honest, I only work in central London. And I say that it's different because I'm not, as you could see, I'm not the traditional agent. I didn't start in an agency. And so my background is different. I have a different set of work values and a work ethic that you normally do not find in the real estate world. And as I said, I'm slightly different because I'm not really a state agent per se. I started as a relocation, then I went into buying agency for many years. That's what I did. And then I joined forces with another group, with a group of ladies that are very well known called HSH, and did, as I said, did some buying agency, but we also sold properties. So we could say that I kind of specialize in off-market, high-end properties in central London. That's my sort of sweet spot. And throughout the years, I've sold some properties off-market in central London. And then roughly 2 years ago, I did go and work for an agency briefly, London House. And then I left London House, and I have now joined forces with the London Broker, which is a platform. And I think, it's a platform where I am surrounded by very experienced people.
Amazing. And so, what does your typical day look like for yourself managing the business? Are you mainly traveling? Are you very much focused on the business growth? Are you out seeing clients? What does a typical day look like for yourself? How busy does it get?
Well, there are many people now like me that are like small operators, let's say, right? And as a small operator, you do a bit of everything. And, I do whatever I have, whenever I have clients to do. So I do a mixture of buying agency. Occasionally, I do a few rental searches or relocation, and then I also sell property. So it really depends. Not 2 days are the same. And I try to meet with other people in the industry. I think it's extremely important for people, and especially, as I say, smaller operators that you don't have a big corporate agency behind you. It's very good to have very good relations with the other agents, and to do as much cooperation as possible.
Amazing. Very well said. And I guess nicely coming on to the next topic is industry trends. So what are some significant trends or shifts within the property industry you're seeing, as perhaps even in specifically central London? And how is those affecting the business and the market? What was your overall take on that?
There are many things that are changing. One in itself had to do with the properties and the demand. Back in the day, until before Brexit, people used to love to buy properties to do them up to their taste, to their way of living. That has changed dramatically. This, I think, is the biggest change in the market, that at least in this part of the world, people now do not want to have to do works. Yes, they will do a bit of decoration here and there, but there are really certainly very few people interested in doing synapse. When I started also, there were lots of people doing flips. They will buy something really cheap. They will do it up and sell it for a premium. That, I think, for the time being, unless you are talking something extremely super prime, that I don't think is the case anymore. Those are some significant changes that we are seeing. People are willing to pay a premium for something that is done up rather to have to do it themselves. They don't want the hassle. They don't want the headache. They don't want the uncertainty, because with the cost after Brexit, you know where you start, but you do not know where you end. And as I say, and the other one is, I think that's one of the biggest thing, that the people don't want to do properties anymore. And there is no more flipping. That's the other big thing. I think if anybody thinks that's still possible in this market, they are in for a big surprise. I think one of the biggest disconnections we see in the industry is that there are still many sellers that believe that their property is worth far more than it is actually worth in reality. And unfortunately, that there are many agents that they are ready to go with that lie and perpetuate that because they won the mandate. And so even though they know that that's very overpriced, they will still take the instruction in the hope that at some point, somehow the seller sees reason and they can convince it, or, but I don't think that's really happening anymore. Seeing a lot of very savvy buyers, at least at the moment, gone are those. There is no fear of missing out. I think the last time we had that was 2022. Everybody wanted to buy something and they was kind of desperate and they had FOMO. We don't see that. At least not now, and I don't see that is going to happen in the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Do you think people have perhaps learned from their mistakes from 2022? They've kind of understood perhaps making a jump when they're not ready, or perhaps would they've not really understand their financial situation and now they've learned their lesson? Do you think that's why perhaps people, what reasons do you think are leading to people being a bit more patient and a bit more analytical before making the decisions?
They don't have money.
Oh, okay. Okay.
People want their money to really go. I think it's just having to do with everything is more expensive these days. But let's not forget that for the vast majority of people, buying property is one of the biggest financial decisions and investments they're going to make in their lives.
Yep.
So, and at the moment, there are lots of, because the cost of living is so much higher than it used to be, the inflation and all these things, and all the uncertainty that we have, people are thinking twice. I think they are ready to commit. And also, I think banks are more, how can I say, careful? It's not the word, but
hesitant, perhaps?
No, not hesitant. They are more exacting as to when they lend something, when they value something, where they are. And that sometimes is a reality check, because most people, I think, have this idea that they can borrow X, and then they will have a surprise when they can actually see what they can borrow, which is not necessarily the same.
Absolutely.
And now we also have a higher stamp duty, which is a big deterrent. It makes you think twice, because it's cash. That's cash money. That's not money that you can borrow. So, and that at a certain level, that becomes a really big pile of cash that you need to have.
Absolutely. And so, what do you think has been the biggest factor of your success? What has resulted in you and the business doing really well? What area of the business do you think you stand out from the crowd, amongst? Is it, for example, customer service? Is it, for example, attention to detail? What do you think has made you so successful amongst the crowd?
For what I do, I cannot speak about somebody else. The majority of my clients are people that work in finance or are very successful entrepreneurs. So I can talk to them because that's what I did before. Like, I understand where they're coming from. Also, I'm a foreigner, and to many people, who are foreigners like me, who have been living here for a long time, sometimes there is this disconnection about what a normal, typical British, to call it something, person understands about. When somebody tells me they want storage, I know exactly what they mean. And I can guarantee you that 90% of people don't understand what that means because it's very different in their minds. The concept of storage is a very particular one. The proportions, things like that, unless you come from that, you don't know what it is. And as I say, it's the fact that the type of people I deal with, I know because I've been dealing with them for a long time. I know how they work. I know how they think. And yeah, that's very important. And I don't think they will be happy with a sort of standard agent, to call it like that.
Absolutely. Got it. And I guess a big trend at the minute I wanted to get your thoughts on is social media, right? The power of social
Yes.
media. Social media has massively blown up in the last 10, 15 years, and it's only going to get bigger. So in terms of trends within the industry, how do you see social media actually benefiting businesses and the industry overall? And what are some ways you're utilizing social media to your advantage?
Well, I'm very active in social media. My name is at Silvina Paz London, as opposed to address. And I used to be address, and then roughly 18 months ago, I changed it to my own name simply because I think we are in this big trend now that we are all our own personal brands. And I think this is something definitely you are seeing more and more out there. Social media is, in my opinion, is very important. It has a role. And it's just one more way to market a property or to get your ideas across. Some people do it really well. Sometimes it creates some fake illusions as well. I hear some sellers that tell me, oh, I'm mandated X person because I see they're very active in social media. And I think there is a fine line between being very active in social media with very good at what you do.
Absolutely.
That may not necessarily be always the case. So I think with everything, take it with a pinch of salt. I think it's an amazing platform. It has a place. Certainly, I think we're going to see more and more because it is important, because people are visual, because that's what, people want. However, there are still lots of situations where social media doesn't work. If you just have a really ugly house, well, sorry, you don't market that in social media unless you make some really funny video, which I doubt the owner will be happy about, or off market. Lots of the off market transactions or properties, you cannot put them in social media because the owners don't want, and you have to respect that. So
absolutely. Yeah, I think you made a good, very good point on terms of personal brand. Before, I think, and at the minute, there's a sea of people and businesses and brands, and it's very hard for people to connect with those brands because they're just investing so much money in ads and their branding and whatnot. But I think that in terms of founder-led content, and I know we touched on this, this is a massive trend at the minute where people and the behind the businesses are actually using their personal brands to actually connect with people, build that connection, and tell them, this is who I am, this is what we do, and kind of build that connection and be able to sell their expertise rather than perhaps sell a product, sell their expertise, sell that value, and then off the back of that they can build relationships. So is that something you're already doing? Do a lot of people recognize you from social media and they kind of interact with you first as opposed to the business, and then business comes off the back of that? Or what is your sort of take on that?
I'll tell you what, lots of agents recognize me from social media. It has occurred to me many times that I go to some place. I remember once I was walking my dogs in Hyde Park and I met with this guy and he said to me, oh, I follow you. I am also in the same industry. And, obviously I cannot know everybody, but for me, that has been a really good for networking, because it happens to me all the time that I go into places and I meet someone that follows me that works in the industry. So that's good. I think it gives you some recognition, which is important. And as I say, it depends what you do. I think each person has its angle. I have an angle too. My angle is not necessarily others people's angle. I think I try to do more like a magazine sort of thing, a lifestyle thing. And, of course, I'm limited. As I said, I deal a lot with off-market property. So there are many things I cannot talk about or post about. And I have to be very careful because of the type of clients I deal with, what I say as well
Yeah.
and don't say. But at the same time, I think, I was recently talking to a client who told me that she had seen me and she had seen what I said about, the fact that these days, if your house needs a lot of work, you need to take that into account when it comes to pricing your property. And she said that she found that very useful. And, it's good to know. It's good to know. In a way, the social media, especially Instagram, works as a glorified business card of sorts. Obviously there is LinkedIn and there is TikTok. There are different platforms. I personally prefer Instagram. It aligns better with the type of saying that I like doing. Also because I think I am a person that likes aesthetically pleasing things, something that it will be known as a philocalist. And so, the other ones are slightly different. But yeah, it's very important. I know people that are selling properties on the back of LinkedIn. So why not?
Absolutely. I think LinkedIn especially has become a massive space because there's about 1 billion users on LinkedIn and there's only perhaps 5%, 10% of people actually active. And so LinkedIn is a very new space. What are some areas of the business, very much business centered, that's doing really well? For example, it could be marketing, it could be operations, it could be the team. What areas that are going really well and what are areas of the business that are perhaps challenging? Maybe it's dealing with customers, maybe it's operational side, maybe it's, for example, finance. What are some areas of the business that are really challenging and you're looking to overcome those challenges?
I think the market is very fragmented for the time being. So whatever means well for me, it may not be so good for somebody else. As I said, because I specifically work in central London, my reality is very different than other people. At the moment, we are seeing a significant division between central London and outside central London. Like in the sense that outside central London, things are very dynamic, things haven't really changed. And central London, on the other hand, is much quieter. And so that is pushing to agents to be more collaboratory, to work more in partnership. So I think what is working is some agents, especially people like myself who are small, right, but established, have good relationships with other people. So we all trying to work together to make things happen. I think this is something that perhaps a few years ago wasn't as evident or as necessary, and now it's certainly a must. And as such, in my case at least, I'm trying to get the people I'm talking to about selling properties to increase the fees that I can share. The UK traditionally has the lowest fees in the market, I think, in the developed world. And this is terrible. But, a few of us realize that has to change. And so in order to have that cooperation, you need to be offering nicer fees. So you motivate people to be out there to work, especially as I say, when you are small, you want to get things going. Well, you need to motivate people and you motivate them, paying them well.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very well said. And what are some areas of the business that are perhaps challenging and some areas you're looking to overcome? Obviously, you talked about having a network is very important. What are some challenges within the business? Is it operations?
I think the biggest challenge, well, there are many challenges in the business. First of all, it's an extremely fragmented industry. So, if you are a client that you are looking to buy or to rent something, it can be extremely frustrating experience that you have to talk to 30 people and perhaps not all the 30 will bother even to answer. So that's very challenging. I think the lack of professionalism in the industry is a huge challenge for everybody, even for myself. I recently wanted to offer somebody that I know they are quite active in an area that I'm not active because, as I say, I'm very focused. They wouldn't even bother to return my call. And I'm somebody that works in the industry. And I specifically said, I have this property I want to offer to you. Can we work together? So if they are not even calling me, I found that very appalling, but it is what it is. I think this is a big challenge. And unfortunately, I don't see that changing.
Absolutely. No, very well said. Very well said. Just Sylvia, I wanted to get your thoughts on another very big trend. I'm not sure if that's something you're already looking into, perhaps something down the line, is AI. I'm sure you've heard about AI and the
Mhm.
recent developments in terms of
Yes.
AI. So what is your overall take on AI? How do you see AI sort of developing? And is there some ways you're already implementing it to help the business become, more efficient, save costs, become more streamlined? Or what is your overall take on AI?
Very good question. I saw, was it last week? I don't remember which newspaper ran an article about this AI system, I will call it, because I don't necessarily know if it is an app or what.
Yeah.
Called Realize, where you can say what you're looking for and they will pair you with the available properties
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
area and I thought that's really good. Certainly, I think there is a place for that, especially in areas where pretty much all the properties are the same, what they will call toaster houses, that is very easy to equate one to the other. Central London, higher end of the market, far more difficult. First
Yeah.
of all, and to begin with, many properties are not on the market. So how is the AI going to know about them? It's impossible. Even if you wanted to, it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
So, but it does have a place. I think we are going to see far more use of AI to do things. We are not there yet, but to, do things like brochures, marketing, that I think there will definitely be a role for AI across the market and across all segments. Agents, I saw that there's going to be some agent and bots and things like that. Yes, maybe we'll get there. I don't know. Eventually, yes, but it does sound to me that when you're comparing apples with apples, it's easy. Now, when you have apples, you have pears, you have, I don't know, mandarins and cherries, and some of them are not even available on the market. It's not very easy to compare them. And plus,
Absolutely.
in my experience, but I'm talking about myself, most of the clients I dealt with, they tell you they want something and they end up buying something else, completely different.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm not saying AI cannot get there, but I know when they tell me I have a budget of X, I already know for sure 99% of the cases they're not gonna get what they want for that money. But
Absolutely.
we'll start there because it's a journey.
Absolutely. Very well said. Well said. So then if we can, I guess, talk about what the future looks like for yourself and the company. If we talk about, say, the next 6 to 12 months, what does the future look like? What are some goals on your vision board? If you could, grant a wish and make it come true, what would the future look like for yourself?
The next 6 to 12 months, I think, in central London,
Yeah.
is going to be very rough for most people,
Yeah.
self included, because there are very few buyers out there, and so the way to make it happen, as I say, is try to just get out there and collaborate and try to do deals and to try to keep positive, because there are always, at all times, there are people buying whatever. Even though most people are scared, there will be somebody that will see there is an opportunity. I have a long-term view. I need a place to live. I think my goal is, like, I guess everybody's goal, just try to make the most deal possible. That's it.
Amazing. Amazing. Very well said. And so, if we can get your biggest piece of advice, something that you've learned perhaps the hard way or something you wish you knew when you started your journey, which perhaps a lot of people would find helpful.
My biggest issue, but try to reply to your emails and answer your calls. I find, as I say, appalling that people, as I say, I come from a very different industry. So to me, the lack of professionalism that I see often is incredible. And, that's not going to change. That's not going to change, unfortunately.
You can only hope.
It's not
Change.
going to change. It's not going to change because of one simple reason. You see, this industry in here in the UK, it's open. There are no barriers to entry. Anybody can do it, which means that I don't want to sound snobbish, but somebody very qualified as myself can come into the industry, the same as somebody who has zero qualification and zero cares. There
Yeah.
is no, things. And then to a certain extent, because there is no regulation, there is not even a minimum level of requirement. You'll be surprised that there are many agents. Sorry, my dog. There are many agents. They don't even know what a short lease is. They have no clue. They have no clue how it works to extend. No idea. And the worst is that they don't even care.
That makes
And
sense.
so, that's not going to change.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very well said. Well, Silvina, thank you very, very much for joining us today on the podcast episode. I've really enjoyed myself speaking to you. A lot of value, a lot of information, which I'm sure a lot of people really appreciate. So thank you very much for your time and thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming on.
Thank you.
Any final comments before we do wrap up for people watching or anything in particular?
We all need to work together, Harris. That's the only comment I have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If we work together, we can make big things happen. That's how
Exactly.
we push forward.
Exactly. Collaboration makes the move go around.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you to Silvina and thanks to everyone who has listened. So thank you very much.